Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Welcome back to another episode. And before we get into today's subject matter, here's a quote that I chose specifically for this conversation. Resistance is futile. The Borg Collective from Star Trek. I chose that quote because the last time that we spoke, last week, Jay, we had kind of gotten into talking about um, pushback from when people are looking to potentially hire a coach or potentially get somebody involved in their business from the outside. So I was hoping to dive into a little bit more of the specifics of that and what are some standard uh what are I'm going to try that one again. What are some of the more common things that you hear around why people are hesitant to hire a coach or an advisor?
Firstly, I love the quote. You said resistance is futile.
Hmm.
Borg? Who are these Borg
The
people?
Borg Collective from Star Trek. That's about as far as my knowledge goes on the subject, but I'm very familiar with that quote.
In like a grand sense, resistance is futile in life. It's like in a deeper sense, there's going to be adversity, there's going to be resistance, there's going to be headwinds. How we face those headwinds shapes who we are, impacts our our what every part of who we are, impacts our cultures, impacts our characters. I don't think it's funny because I love the quote because I think in a very deep sense resistance is futile. How we face resistance in life, in business, will shape the value systems. The core values will reflect the leadership personality or style, um, what's truly made, what the company is really made up of, or what the people are really made up of, right? Who are we following here? Resistance is futile. It is futile. So how do we respond, or how do we relate to it? And in the context, I love that quote for that. Because that's what this is all about, right? That's what Culture Matters is all about. How do we actually respond? How do we actually relate? And so if we're talking about, because we were last time, I loved it, the resistance of maybe our listeners thinking, oh, is my organization at a point where I'm actually could benefit from help?
Right.
And I was explaining the benefit to the advisors of the resistance, because that's what tests character. That's what refines services and products. That's what actually makes the third party better, or the teacher better with the student. It's like, oh, the student is asking great questions. The student even has some objections. The student, it's not, is giving me some grief. I've got to adapt and get better to meet the student where they're at. It only challenges the teacher. The challenge to the teacher is a call to responsibility, a call and a call to really have it together, to really know your subject matter, to really be operating on a level. It's not just knowing the content. It's living in a way where you could respond to adversity, respond to difficulty.
Mm.
There's the character piece and there's the knowledge piece. And both together is what provides ultimately the most value, short, middle, long term, for customers.
Right.
Another way of saying this too is, uh, just because I was trying to say this last time when we ended, just because we want to help people doesn't mean they want to or need it.
Right.
That would be another way to, and there's a conversation there, there's a relationship
Right.
there that will be, doesn't mean they want it or need it. Now if they need it but don't want it, do they need it? If they like
Well,
there's an argument to be made there. If they need, what does that mean? It's like, if they need it, well, according to who? it's got to
Right.
be you and them.
Right.
And so go ahead. Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you
yeah.
think it's do you think that maybe a little of that resistance comes from, like, do you trying to think of a good way to say this. Would would it be safe to say that some people resist the need or the desire to have a coach or have an advisor because they are thinking that they have it all together themselves? You know,
They might actually.
like that. It. I'm hesitating to use the word hubris or arrogance or anything like that. But do you think there's a that it comes from a place of, I started this, I know what I'm doing. Bringing someone else in isn't going to create enough value. I mean, is there an element to it?
Yeah, yeah, and and I want to make sure that I'm not uh implying something negative about that.
Right. Right.
That may be exactly the chutzpah, the confidence, the clarity that has been necessary to become successful.
Sure.
That may be exactly the type of person that any vendor wants to be in business with. I don't want to, especially, on a podcast, even make the argument that that person is just solely operating from hubris and ego and dogma and all this. First of all, I think that would reflect how, a blind spot of our own. How
Mm,
do we know that we're not operating too much from arrogance and hubris?
a great
Like,
point.
whoa, we know it all and we have all the answers. And if you don't join us, you're done. Like that. Now it's becoming like kumbaya, Kool-Aid.
Right.
Wait, are we a service firm providing products and services of value, or are we are we providing something else? So to answer your question though succinctly, I think it is a yes, but it's not necessarily a pejorative or a negative.
Oh
So,
yeah, right on.
like that those might be the clients that, I would actually go back and say, well, when I'm getting that resistance, how well have I listened? What
Mm,
questions have I asked?
mm,
How open is my spirit? What have I not asked? Um, do I have too much skin in the game? Am I overly? Am I moving too quickly in the discovery process? I've done all these things, right? Have too much skin in the game, move too quickly, get too excited. You know, that's where content and education and experience can actually become negative for the advisor. Like, oh, it's now I'm not slowing down enough and humbling myself enough, asking enough questions. I'm not relating to this person like a relationship. I'm relating to them like a commodity, like a number.
right.
Oh, I've seen this 1,000 times. I know exactly what your problem is. That's really showing we want to avoid we want to do the best we can as helpers, as professional services, as advisors,
Right.
like the spirit of professional services to combat that impulse. So I actually would say it's almost like can be backwards where the client is just responding to our own hubris.
Mm,
The coach or the
interesting.
mentor or
Yeah.
the advisor's own arrogance because they know what they're not wrong necessarily, but they
Right.
haven't done the work. I haven't done the work. We haven't done the work. Slowing down, asking enough questions, meeting the client where they are, relating to them like a person with their own story and their own experiences. That can happen very easily without even realizing, oh my God, I moved too quickly.
Oh my gosh, excuse me. Um, you said something really interesting that I want to kind of come back to. Oh, I've seen this 1,000 times. Um, which I think is, approaching services like this, like what Culture Matters does. I think that would be a hard disadvantage because every business is different. Every person is different. Every business is a snowflake. There are no two that are exactly the same. So to say, oh, I've seen this 1,000 times. This is what's going to help this person and blah, blah, blah. That I think that's hubris, at its finest. But what you're saying is in order to kind of go around someone who might be a little hesitant to do this work or to, hire a coach, you have to approach them individually and understand that everybody is an individual and that, just because this worked for client A doesn't mean that it's going to work for client B.
I also want to share about resistance. So in sailing, resistant winds, um, they don't blow perfectly in our favor. I don't believe we can actually sail without resistance. It's not just the tailwinds, it's the headwinds that actually give the sailor the ability to turn the boat. Um, so I think that's something to take into account, like as from a metaphor standpoint, is that you can't actually sail on the high seas without resistance.
Mm,
It's how the sailor navigates that resistance
hmm.
that gives the boat the ability to move forward.
Right. Right.
More of the, I guess I have some anecdotes here I could say. A sailor uses the resistance of wind against the sail and the resistance of water against the keel to steer. If both forces moved in the same direction, the boat would drift aimlessly. It's the tension between opposing forces that allows control, direction, and speed.
Hmm.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, it's like we, the tension is inevitable. The tension is a component of the process of life on a deeper level. It's how we relate to the tension. So, um, you said each business is like a snowflake. In that regard, each of the listeners is going to be on their own path to building their career, their business. Let's say it's a business, and they will know when they need help.
Right.
They will know when they need help. And if they're and of course I'd want to make the argument that it's not just their executive team that they're going to piecemeal together over the career of building an enterprise, but it's their suite of advisors and vendors that are outside the organization but are loyal to the organization's mission and can help bring forth the vision and provide uh, intellectual property, right? Content, wisdom, guidance, and of course, relationships and resources to help aid those leaders in the creation of their vision and in the growth of the business. And those people will show up along the journey,
Mm,
whether it's intentional or not. They'll show up. The question is, you know, is the buyer in that case ready? And are the third parties able and willing?
mm,
And what combination? So the best we can do is be prepared, willing to navigate the resistance, have a sense of urgency and curiosity,
mm.
be consistent, focused, and I think educated, and that's a
Sure.
broad term.
Sure.
Book knowledge and experience and um, what communities we're a part of and who's on our team and so on and so forth. That the breadth of education. It's like, do we have the knowledge? Are we in a spirit of learning and curiosity? What master do we serve? We're serving more than one. We're serving, of course, our own egos. We have to serve the client. It's like there's a culture of services. The client has to come at the highest to kind of reorder in the right hierarchy our own goals and self-interest. I think the client comes at the top. What's in their best interest? to help. And if that's the case, it can be a lifelong working relationship.
You said something a minute ago I found very interesting. We're talking about, the resistance and everything. But what you said earlier was the vendors and everybody, they're all working, in support of whatever the business might be. I think that's just very interesting. It's an interesting concept to think that even though there may be pushback, even though there may be some resistance from somewhere, like everyone's on the same team. Everyone's trying to do their best to get this organization where it needs to go, or where it can go potentially. So I just think it was a very interesting way to put it, that we're all in support of this organization. But to me, that just says we're all on the same team. And a little bit of that resistance, might be a good thing. It can get you to a place maybe you didn't know you needed to be in the end. And I just think that's a really interesting concept, that we're all in this together.
Hmm. There's a
Um,
quote. I don't recall who it was, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and when the student is ready, the teacher will disappear.
mhm,
It's
yeah.
like they'll appear and they'll disappear.
So the in our terms, that would just, to me, that says, when the business is ready, when the business understands that, that the advisory role is something that needs to be filled, they'll bring that person in. And then it's up to the advisor, I think, to know when it's time to walk away, right?
I think this is where it gets into the spirit of the profession. It's like, what is in the best interest of the client? What is in the best interest of the client? What is in the best interest of the client? And the third party has to listen to their conscience. And yes, so yes, and also listen to the client uh, for what ultimately they want. So yes, I believe there's a huge um, that's where integrity and the spirit of the profession has to come in. Like the
Right.
client comes first.
Right.
And so that may be giving space for the organization to breathe, you know, and all of this, there's a lot of nuance here and, very particular, but yes, of course, like anyone listening in any business, um, what you sell things people want and need. Like what does the customer, what's in the best interest of the customer?
That's,
So
yeah. And integrity is the big one, man. I think that, and especially in an advisory role, um, you know, maybe it's not completely up to the advisor to know when to walk away, but the integrity part comes in where, you know, continuing that conversation and kind of allowing the client or the business owner to come to that conclusion on their own, while at the same time having a guiding hand, understanding what the end goal is, and helping them to get there. Do you think that there is something that you could consider an end goal with an advisor or with a coach? Is there a minute or a time where you say, okay, we've got there? Like, but is there a tangible goal to achieve, or is this more of an intangible thing where it's kind of a feeling or an understanding?
well, so there may be projects where, in the executive coaching aspect, a third party is brought in to help a leader get to the next level in
Right.
their career,
Right.
right? Maybe help someone move into the CEO position where they otherwise they were close to that position. They had X amount of experience, and there's a couple of little things missing to help them get to that next level. And that could be, all right, in the next 2 quarters, we're going to achieve this, this, and this is how we'll get there. And see you
Mhm.
on Tuesday.
Right.
Like, so Absolutely. The end in mind is going to be decided and figured out by the buyer
Right.
based on what their goals are,
Right.
what they would like to accomplish, and why, and ultimately what investment makes sense for that, because it all has to come back, right? And many
Right.
times over. So
Right.
yeah, beginning with the end in mind is a huge component to
That's interesting.
any type of investment. And of course,
Sure.
it's yeah, so that would be my answer to that.
Yeah. Right on. Well, Jay, again, thank you for the conversation. Looking forward to doing this again next week. For all those who have been listening to these last couple of episodes, this is an opportunity for us here at Culture Matters to discuss what it is that we do here and give a little insight into the world of coaching and advisory and we hope that these episodes have been helpful to you. If they have been, share it with somebody who you'd like to hear it as well. And Jay, I'm looking forward to talking with you again next week. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast.